Hi, welcome to Itsy Bitsy Book Bits chapter readings. Tonight we're going to be reading Rick Ingram Burger's Book 3 by Rosley. Chapter 1. Rick exited the church behind the bride and groom with Melody Travis on his arm. "I'm glad that's over," he confessed as they cleared the last pew. He wouldn't have put on a monkey suit and stood in front of a packed church for anyone other than Jake or Will. His older brothers were all the family he had, and he'd do anything for them. Mel's laughter rang out in the vestibule. "Poor thing. Was it that bad?" "Hell, yes. I've been through worse. No lie there. At least no one had shot at him, and nothing had blown up. Yet." They hurried out the front door. Limos waited to the curb to carry the guests to the reception being held in a giant tent out at Melody and Hank's place. The wedding party made an abrupt turn at the front of the steps, making their way around the corner of the building where they would re-enter through a side door to take pictures in the empty church. Melody tightened her grip on his arm. "Thank you for your service." Rick nodded, uneasy, accepting gratitude for his stint in the Marines. He was proud of the years he served his country, would always be a Marine at heart, but those days were behind him. He fulfilled a dream and came back a different man, older, wiser, changed in fundamental ways he didn't discuss with anyone. The Marine Corps had taken a green recruit and forced him into their mold, and in doing so, compelled him to grow up, to accept things about himself no amount of discipline or routine could alter. "Jake said you were in the Marines?" "Yes, ma'am." "I bet you turn heads in your uniform." "If only you knew." He held the door for her, then followed her inside the small office space of the sanctuary. "I wouldn't know, ma'am." The woman whirled on him, the skirt of her blue bridesmaid dress caressing his calves before settling. She fingered the lapel of his tux. "He's modest, too." The mischief in her smile set him on edge. He knew what was coming next and was powerless to stop it. Why did every married woman think it was their God-given duty to fix up every single man? "Have you met Sonny's cousin, Amanda?" "She's about your age and single." She adjusted his boutonniere. "I'll introduce you at the reception. She's got the same blonde hair as Sonny." "God," she gushed. "You two will look splendid together." He would have told her she needn't bother with an introduction since Sonny had thrown her cousin at him the minute the girl arrived in town, but was saved from replying when the bride's parents entered behind them. Apparently that was the signal the photographer had been waiting for. He ushered everyone into the sanctuary. Rick stood where he was told, smiled on command. If the Marines had taught him anything, it was that a well-planned mission was a successful one, so he spent every interminable second of the photo shoot planning his next mission. Operation Avoid Matchmaker Melody. He preferred to skip the reception altogether, but Jake would murder him. So the best plan he could come up with relied on avoiding Melody Travis as much as possible. Just because he hadn't brought a date to Jake's wedding didn't mean he needed help getting one. He'd never been short on companionship, but he wasn't going to stand by and let some busybody fix him up at a wedding reception. Even if this Amanda person was interested, nothing could come with them meeting. Look for the one person he had no business seeking out. Rick swept his gaze over the round table set with silver, crystal, and fancy china, settling on a table in the back. The stray singles, he surmised. Makes sense they all be seated together. Avoid at all costs, Amanda was one of them, along with a couple of Jake's lawyer friends, including the one his brother had recently hired to take on his workload. Rick allowed his gaze to linger on the man. A few years younger than Rick, the junior lawyer looked fine in a dark three-piece suit that set off his pale skin, blonde hair, styled to within an inch of its life, probably with some fancy product with a French name. His trendy glasses screamed designer label. The only designer duds Rick had ever worn had been provided by Uncle Sam and came in two colored distinctive patterns, woodland and desert. These days, he preferred discount store t-shirts, sturdy denim jeans, steel-toed boots, Stan, Wilbrook's only barber, cut his hair but only when needed, like for a wedding. Jake had threatened to kick his ass if he didn't get his hair cut in time for the wedding. Poor Brent was in for a rude awakening. Woodbrook wasn't his kind of town. One of the Hudson lawyers held everyone's attention at the table then. As if on cue, they all burst out laughing. Brent turned toward the infamous Amanda, said something to her. Then the two of them waved their way through the tables to the dance floor. From the looks of things, these two would keep each other occupied for the remainder of the evening just as well. Rick didn't hit on heterosexuals, my apologies. Hell, he didn't hit on anyone. Never had. His one relation had developed all on its own, a real Magnets and Steel cliche. As the couple danced to a sappy ballad, Rick drained the last of his champagne and silently congratulated himself on a narrow escape. He stuck it out to the end, but as soon as the lights of the limo carrying the newlyweds to the airport disappeared, he loosened his bow tie, made for his car his brother had left for him the night before. It saved Rick hunting up a ride home. He needed to pick up the honeymooners when they returned in a couple of weeks. Even if there had been a room in the old pickup truck Goose for Jake refused to ride in it. Having said goodbye to those who mattered, he didn't think twice about skirting the crowded tent. He successfully avoided Melanie's matchmaking, so now it was time to get the hell out of here. If his luck held, he'd make it to Dallas in time to share a couple of drinks with his buddy from the Marines. David's new job, working for a firm that installs security systems for businesses, often brought him in the area. Rick's body hummed with excitement at the opportunity to spend time with Dave. They met 6 years ago when Dave had been assigned to Rick's unit. Prior to their first deployment together, things had turned personal between them, a secret they kept over multiple deployments. Rick had separated from the military first, having had enough of risking his life in the desert. Dave had followed almost a year later when his contract ran out. Rick would be lying if he said he didn't hold hope of something more than the occasional hookup when Dave's job brought him to Dallas, but neither of them was ready to open the closet door. Rick stopped at home long enough to change into his business jeans, the ones with the dark wash, long-sleeved Henley. Anticipating spending the night, he shoved a clean pair of underwear and his toiletry kits into a backpack. At the last minute, he tucked the box of condoms in top. Then he texted his longtime Larry to let him know he was on his way. He smiled when Dave responded with his hotel and room number. His luck was definitely holding. No clubbing tonight, a few drinks from the minibar, then a night of private debauchery suited him just fine. Tomorrow was Sunday, and with Jack on his honeymoon and Will cozying up with Mackenzie, no one would be expecting to see his face until Monday morning. Life was good. Until it wasn't. The instant Dave opened the door, Rick knew something was wrong. He stepped inside, dropped his backpack, and wrapped his arms around Dave's waist, dragging his body hard tight against him. When Dave didn't return the hug, Rick's heart dropped to his toes. He stepped back, taking red eyes, the deep lines etched into the beloved face. What's wrong? Did somebody die? Dave shook his head. His lower lip trembled. And damn it, that didn't shoot a lightning bolt of fear down Rick's spine. Are you sick? He cradled his lover's face in his palms. I'm imagining all kinds of scary shit here, babe. Tell me. I can't. In all the years he's known David, he never heard him utter those words. There wasn't anything Staff Sergeant Turner couldn't or wouldn't do. If you looked up the word badass in the dictionary, you find a picture of Dave. No mission was too dangerous or impossible. Rick still had nightmares about the shit his best friend and lover had done with him at his side. That they were both alive and still had their body parts was nothing short of a miracle Rick thanked the universe for every day. Rick grabbed the broadest shoulders he's ever seen, then let his hands lace his fingers with his lover's. Come. He tugged his big man from the clove to bed. Sit the fuck down. Tell me what's going on. He was going for tender, but his words came out sounding more like an order. Whatever. The former Marine dropped to the mattress. He leaned forward, braced his elbows on his knees, cradle in his head in his upturned hands. Rick dragged the desk chair over and sat, offering support, wrapped his fingers around the other man's wrist and squeezed. Dave wasn't a cologne soda guy, the lack of ox effect making his natural musk all the more potent. Despite the fear clawing at Rick's innards, his dick responded at the earthiness of the man. There isn't anything we can't face together, babe, so spit it out. Dave shook his head, back heaved as great gulping sobs raped his body. Did you kill somebody? What the fuck, man? Talk to me. No. No. Rick sat back, observing the broken man before him. No, you didn't kill nobody, or no, you won't tell me. Both. The user of reverse man couldn't seem to come up with a full sentence. Gentle wasn't working. Time to try a different tactic. Fuck you, Staff Sergeant, Rick lunged, catching the larger man off guard and flattened him on the bed. Climbing astride one of their favorite positions, he pinned Dave's wrist to the mattress, leaned over, getting right in his face. We're a team, fuckwad. Tell me what the fuck is going on. Do I need to kick somebody's ass? What? Yeah, there was nothing tender about that. The hard ridge of the man's cock lined up with his own budget erection. Whatever was going on, it hadn't affected Dave's libido. Nothing ever had. Rick shifted gears again, pressing soft kisses to tear-ravaged cheeks. It's okay, babe. I'm here. You can tell me. The tender words only made the man blubber harder. What the ever-loving fuck? Rick trailed kisses along the strong jaw, down the quartered neck, then back up to the sensitive spot behind his ear. The one that never failed to give Dave's motor running full throttle. Babe, he whispered, then flicked his tongue onto the tickle of that one spot. That was all it took. The beast beneath him growled, reared up, tossed Rick over to the bed, pinning him his grip had no chance of overcoming. The man may have been a civilian now, but he kept in shape. His muscles had muscles. One of the things Rick admired mostly about the body pressed him into the comforter. No words were spoken, none were needed. Sex was a language they both spoke fluently. Dave straddled him, his hot breath fanning Rick's face, his red eyes searching. Not for permission, that was a given, but for something else Rick couldn't name. Didn't want to name because his gut told him it would shatter him, just as it had shattered the man he loved. Thank you for reading with me.